We made it, we're finally here in Mexico, and this video is coming a little later than expected because it's taken us a little bit of time to settle in. A bunch of stuff has happened over the last couple of weeks, but here we are and I'm excited to film this video. And if you want to know why we've moved to Mexico, make sure to check out my video on why we're becoming full-time digital nomads. In this video, I'm going to be telling you what the cost was of moving to Mexico. So if you want to make a similar move, you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you want to take your business on the road, then you're going to find this video really interesting. Of course, just a little disclaimer, everybody's situations are slightly different. So I'm just sharing with you my own experience of how much it costs, how much money we spent in this move. Make sure you keep watching because there were some very unexpected costs that came up, but also we found a way to make this move totally free. That's right, it did not cost us a penny in the end. So keep watching and I will tell you how we made that happen. Because we were renting, we didn't have huge costs in terms of, you know, selling a house or anything like that. We just had to give up our tenancy agreement. The first cost we had was hiring an end of tenancy cleaner, which yes, we could have done ourselves. However, we were both working, we were both very busy, so we just hired a cleaner to do it and she did a great job. That was £60 and of course that's split between us. Then we had to give up our broadband and we were not at the end of the contract, unfortunately. So that's cost us £120 to stop the contract with them, which is a little bit annoying, but there you go. And then the very last thing that we got before we went was our travel insurance. It's a very, very good job that we got travel insurance because 1 week after we got to Mexico, I got really, really unwell with a kidney infection and I ended up in the hospital. I'm not adding this cost to the total because we are insured, but the visit ended up costing me $2,000 US. So if we didn't have travel insurance, that would have shot our costs up so high. So please, if you are thinking of going anywhere abroad, always get travel insurance because you never know what could happen. So travel insurance cost £62 for both of us and we can pay that monthly, so that just covers us for each month. And I can't tell you if they're any good yet because we've just made a claim and hopefully we're gonna get the money back. The next big costs that we had was obviously the flights. This was the biggest cost of all, but we actually ended up paying less than we thought we were going to have to pay due to Mexico going on the green list and the red list and the green list. It all got a bit confusing and we changed our flights around 3 times. But it ended up being cheaper in the end because Mexico ended up on the green list, so we were able to fly straight there with TUI. So this cost us £1,300. We did treat ourselves a little bit and we got the premium economy seats, which, you know, we had a little bit extra and we wanted to fly in comfort for a change. So it's definitely worth it, I would say, if you're ever thinking of flying with TUI. The premium economy is pretty nice. You get the lounge access, you get bigger seats. You know, it's definitely worth it in my opinion. That was the biggest cost that we had overall. And then when we got to Cancun, we also booked a private transfer, which was only £20 for both of us, which in my opinion is definitely worth it because I don't like to be hanging around at the other end, especially when I'm jet lagged and I just want to get straight to the hotel. So for our first few nights in Playa del Carmen, which is where we are based, we booked a hotel before we could go into our Airbnb. So the hotel cost us for 3 nights, £109. It was just a basic hotel, it wasn't anything fancy, and it just allowed us to get settled in. We were very jet lagged for the first few days, so we didn't do much. We just hung out in the room for quite a lot of the time just to try and recover on our sleep. The next biggest cost that we had, of course, was our first month's accommodation. So we booked an Airbnb for 1 month. Airbnb is quite a bit inflated compared to, you know, if you were to book something longer term or if you were to go direct. So our first month's accommodation was definitely more expensive than we would have liked. So it was $1,100 for our Airbnb, which is a 1-bedroom apartment, very modern with a rooftop pool, and a co-working space, and it's about 15 to 20 minute walk to the center. So it's everything we want in an apartment, and it was a little bit above our budget. We wanted to pay a little bit less than that, but thankfully the Airbnb host, we were able to get in touch with him directly, and our next 2 months are actually £400 cheaper per month because we got in touch directly. So if you ever go anywhere and you first book a month in an Airbnb, speak to the host if you want to stay longer and see if you can get a better rate, because that's what we did. So I forgot to mention about the visa situation in Mexico. So if you're from the UK like me, and probably from a lot of other countries, but I'm not sure what the situation is from your country, but for us in the UK, we can fly to Mexico and stay for 6 months with no fee whatsoever. So there were no visa fees, which is great. The next cost that I had was getting a SIM card, because data here, if I use my English SIM, is so expensive, and I learned that the hard way. I accidentally used it. I thought I was on Wi-Fi, and obviously the Wi-Fi must have failed, and it's £6 per megabyte here. So I ended up spending £20 on data that without even meaning to, right? So I've bought a Mexican SIM card, and that's only cost me about £10 per month at the moment. It's very, very cheap here for data. Okay, so let's talk totals. So the total that we spent in the move over here with all of the things that I just discussed with you was £2,781, which isn't that bad. That's for 2 of us, don't forget, and I haven't included the cost of the hospital that I had to be in, or living costs, things like that. This is just the cost of the actual move over, and I appreciate, because we were renting, things were a lot cheaper. We don't have kids, we don't have pets, you know, there was all these things that made things much easier for us, so I appreciate everybody's situation is slightly different. I mentioned at the start of this video that we actually managed to do this whole move for free, and let me explain why. So when we were in the UK, we were only back in the UK for 1.5 years since we were last traveling, but somehow we managed to accumulate so much stuff. Like, I couldn't even believe it when I looked around and I saw how much stuff we had in that house. So we went on Marketplace, we sold a hell of a lot of stuff, and we actually made a decent amount of money from this stuff. We made £2,800 from selling our furniture, and then we got £1,000 back from the deposit of our house in the UK. So that's a total of £3,800, which means we actually made a profit of £1,019, and that money is going towards our living costs for our first month here. So, and we actually booked a couple of really fun things, because it was my birthday and Danny's birthday. Our birthdays are a day apart, so we did things like we went diving, and next weekend we are going quad biking, and we're doing fun things like that. So in the end, because of all of the stuff we sold and our deposit, we ended up better off. And because we run a business online, we don't have any costs in terms of moving the business over here. My company is still based in the UK for now, and we don't know if we're staying here long term or not. So if we are staying here long term, obviously we have to rethink that and look at the taxes and look at the whole everything behind that. But right now we're temporarily here and we don't know where we're going to go next. So there's no cost associated with the business right now, fortunately, but definitely it's something to think about in the future. Anyway, I hope this video has been useful for you if you are thinking of moving abroad and you wanted some kind of guide on how much things are going to cost. I hope this has helped you to put things into perspective a little bit. I'm definitely going to be coming out with more travel related videos alongside business, entrepreneurship, sales and marketing. So make sure to hit subscribe if you enjoyed this, and follow me on Instagram.